How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Looking for the perfect base camp to explore Moab's stunning landscapes? Welcome to Spanish Trail RV Park, just 3 miles south of downtown Moab. Enjoy spacious pull-through sats with full hookups, free Wi-Fi, and cable TV. Relax in our heated pool and spa after a day of adventure. Clean restrooms, laundry facilities, and a pet-friendly environment make your stay comfortable. With breathtaking views of Red Rock Cliffs and the La Salle Mountains, Spanish Trail RV Park offers a serene retreat. Plus, you're just minutes away from Arches and Canyonlands National Parks. Experience the beauty and convenience of Spanish Trail RV Park, your home away from home in Moab. Book your stay today at SpanishTrailRVPark.com.
Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. You have tuned in ever so successfully, ever so wisely to America's home for conservative, not bitter talk. I'm your host, the one and only, the ever so benevolent dictator here behind the microphone, Todd Huff. If you want to be a part of the conversation, if you want to share your thoughts and questions and all of that sort of stuff, your opinions, I invite you to send an email, todd@toddhuffshow.com. Be sure to include the appropriate amounts of adoration and praise, my friends. Kidding. Just a little bit. It's good to be here. So, I want to talk today about what was announced on Friday after we stopped the program, wrapped up the program for the day. Tulsi Gabbard made an announcement via X. I want to call it Twitter, but she made an announcement via X that she was making a criminal referral on Obama's national security team as it pertains to their handling of the Russian collusion delusion hoax. And I want to talk about that today. I want to get to some other things, time permitting as well, but that's where we are starting, my friends. Before I do that, though, friends, one of the biggest challenges for conservatives like us is finding ways to ensure that our values align with everything that we do. Now, listen, we don't need to be unnecessarily, what's the word I want to use? We don't need to be just over the top about it. We don't need to be just jerks about it. But the reality is that we believe the things that we believe, and we have to defeat the opposing ideas wherever those ideas are being pushed and how those ideas are being supported. One way that is done is through what I call the 7 pillars of propaganda. There's 7, but one of those is through woke business, and that would include investments that you may have in your portfolio. That's why I love what the team at 48 Financial is doing. They specialize in biblically responsible investing. That means that they screen out companies that do not align with your faith and your values so that you're not funding things that go completely against what you believe in. Plus, they do the heavy lifting for you, helping you align your investments with your purpose and with your goals. The best part is you can do an assessment right now. Do an assessment of your current investments to see how they align, if they do, if they don't, to what degree. with your purpose and goals, how they reflect your values. All you have to do is go to 48financial.com/Todd. Again, that's 48financial.com/Todd. 48Financial, because your money should work for your values. All right, so let us start here by going to X. Tulsi Gabbard, Friday afternoon, late afternoon, about 3:30, she posts this on X. She writes the following: the goal was to usurp and subvert the will of the American people, no matter how powerful. Every person involved in this conspiracy, the real collusion, by the way, must be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The integrity of our democratic republic depends on it. Kudos, by the way, to Tulsi Gabbard getting that right, not saying our democracy. But she says we are turning over all documents to the DOJ for criminal referral. And let me read the full press release that they released on Friday. Says this: new evidence of Obama administration conspiracy to subvert President Trump's 2016 victory and presidency. Now, this is important. This is important for several reasons. Let me just read this to you, and we'll kind of frame this up and discuss this. But here's what it says. On Friday, Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, revealed overwhelming evidence that demonstrates how, after President Trump won the 2016 election against Hillary Clinton, President Obama and his national security cabinet members manufactured and politicized intelligence to lay the groundwork for what was essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. Then there's bullet points in this press release. There are 6 bullet points. I'm going to read them. In the months leading up to the November 2016 election, the intelligence community consistently assessed that Russia is, quote, probably not trying to influence the election by using cyber means. Bullet point numero dos says this: on December 7th, 2016, after the election, talking points were prepared for DNI James Clapper. You know James Clapper, one of the, perhaps, there's lots of people to choose from as far as the ringleaders, as far as the most egregious offenders of decency, common sense, the Constitution, the rule of law, all that sort of stuff. Clapper's up there, in my opinion. So on December 7th, this was about a month after the elections, Clapper said this: foreign adversaries, listen carefully here, did not use cyber attacks on election infrastructure to alter the U.S. presidential election outcome. 2 days later, this is another bullet point, December 9th, 2016, President Obama's White House gathered top National Security Council principals for a meeting that included, boy, this is a laundry list. I tell you what, when I read you these names, I'm going to pause between them, because if you've listened to this program for any length of time, if you've followed politics, some of these names, you're going to know them if you followed this. And I'm going to pause because these are the people. These are the people that were running this country. This is terrifying, even in retrospect, to read these names, especially knowing the level of power, authority, influence they had in this country. Here we go. James Clapper was one of the principals that met. John Brennan, communist sympathizer John Brennan. Susan Rice, goodness gracious, Susan Rice. John Kerry, who, as Rush Limbaugh would say, served in Vietnam. Loretta Lynch. It just keeps getting better. Andrew McCabe. And others to discuss Russia. So that was, so So the talking points were out. They had assessed for a long time that Russia was not trying to influence the election using cyber means. Clapper was out there about a month after the election saying that Russia did not, foreign adversaries did not use cyber attacks on the election, the infrastructure of the election. Then they met, this cast of clowns, on December 9th, 2016. This would have been roughly a month, 6 weeks before Trump would have taken office his first term. Bullet point number 4 here says, after the meeting, DNI Clapper's executive assistant sent an email to IC leaders asking them to, tasking them with creating a new IC assessment per the president's request that details, quote, the tools Moscow used and actions it took to influence the 2016 election. It went on to say, quote, ODNI will lead this effort with participation from CIA, FBI, NSA, and DHS. By the way, all of those are under the purview of the authority of the executive branch. So they had a meeting. They had this cast of characters that are, in my estimation, incredibly untrustworthy, incredibly questionable people that who knows what specifically happened at this meeting. But we do know, according to Tulsi Gabbard, according to documents, that after the meeting, they suddenly then said, per the president's request, they're now going to provide details for how Moscow tried to do exactly what they said Moscow was not trying to do in the months, basically the months leading up to the election and even up to this point about a month after the election. Bullet point 5 here says Obama officials leaked false statements to media outlets. That's shocking. Including the Washington Post claiming, quote, Russia had attempted through cyber means to interfere in, if not actively influence, the outcome of the election. Right? So in fact, I remember this. Now keep in mind, for those of you who have been with us, or even for those, maybe more so for those who haven't, I started this show. I started podcasting in our bedroom closet August 10th, so we're coming up on the 10th anniversary here, but August 10th, 2015. This show first hit the radio airwaves October 3rd, 2016, about a month before the election. I just shared a little bit of this on the program last week. Just the timing and things that made me think of some of this, especially as we approach the 10-year anniversary. But I remember the election, the first day we were on the radio live, October 3rd, 2016. Actually, that's not, I guess we were overnight. We were overnight at that. I started at 2 a.m. on Freedom 95, by the way. That's one of the reasons why we still hang on to that spot. The program airs overnights as well, per the courtesy of the kind folks at Freedom 95 in Indianapolis, Jeremy and so forth. But it's, that's where we started. And a month into it, somehow after, I guess I was wrong when I said this last week, I don't think I had ever been live on the radio because we pre-recorded the show back then. I wasn't up at 2 a.m. That just didn't, although I've done this show at every conceivable time you can imagine, I wasn't up at 2 a.m. to do a live show, so we would send the file in and it would air at 2 a.m. So I don't think I'd ever been on. I think I said last week I'd been on live for a month when the election came. I don't think that's true. I don't think I was on at all live. So for some reason, I still don't understand to this day, we thought, and the folks at Freedom thought that it'd be good to have us on live election night, and I went through that story last week. I'm not going to repeat that, although it's a good story. But this all corresponds with when we were just starting, right? I've been a student of this stuff going back to definitely my college days and probably my last couple of years in high school as well. So I had been following this. I had, studied under, if you will, at the advanced, what did Rush call it? The Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies or some such thing that Rush used to say. But I studied under this. I paid close attention to this stuff. And so I remember talking about some of these things. In fact, this is what I remember specifically. I remember immediately after the election, there was no talk. There was like this brief period of time where they were just trying to come to grips with the fact, I've documented this a lot on this program, but the media, the Democrat Party, the left, the people in this country were trying to come to grips with the fact that Hillary had lost the election. And there was no immediate calls for, or I guess allegations that Russia had stolen the election. It was sometime later, and as I think about it and as I read this, if you would have asked me, I would have said probably a month later. And that kind of aligns with this time frame. I mean, I just would have been guessing. But I remember starting to hear Russia stole the election. In fact, the earliest, if memory serves me right, I remember talking about stories, I think, where people were actually claiming Russia hacked the machines and stole the election. But that was not what this final, hoax turned into. The hoax was that Russia partnered with Trump. I've been through this hundreds of times, but they partnered with Trump to steal the election through an elaborate and very sophisticated and effective social media campaign, an advertising campaign that tricked Hillary voters into voting for Trump. That's where this whole thing led us. And of course, to thinking people, this never made any sense. And I remember saying this long ago, long before 2020 was, the reality of the day either. I remember saying if the last step in a process to steal an election is not going to be an ad campaign, it's going to be somehow manipulating the counts. It's going to be changing votes. It's going to be dumping new votes into the system. It's going to be casting fake ballots. It's going to be some sort of an algorithm that can change the way that things are tabulated. Something like that. That's the last step. The last step is not an ad campaign. This is preposterous. This is idiotic. As I've said before, and I stand by, if the ad campaign was as effective as they wanted us to believe that it was, every single company in America, every single politician would have been calling Putin for, a connection to his social media marketing team, because if they were that good, if they were that effective, especially as people that weren't even native to our language, who didn't even live in this country, weren't privy to some of the little things that make a big difference in political speech and so forth. They figured this out from afar on the other side of the globe with a bunch of probably interns or some such thing. They figured it out, and they decided that they knew how to trick people into voting for Trump, who really should have been voting for Hillary. That was the entire thing. And now all this stuff's coming out. That happened about a month. I'm just going from memory, but about a month later. And I attribute some of that to the initial shock, right? The initial shock of Trump winning. This is at first, if you remember, they cried, they screamed at the universe. Some of them did this the entire first term of Trump. Some of them are still doing it today. It's taken on a little bit of a new form today. They've stopped screaming at the universe, and now they just kind of virtue signal. It's a contest among leftists to demonstrate who hates Trump the most, because in their distorted worldview, the person who hates Trump the most is the person who has the highest moral fiber and fabric of any person in America today. So it's a contest. It's a contest where they're playing this game to see who gets the most points for being the best person according to the left's insane logic. So, but this all started to come into play when about a month or so later, a month or so after the election, and you started getting headlines like this. claims like this right here in the Washington Post, which this press release references. Russia has attempted through cyber means to interfere in, if not actively influence, the outcome of an election. Which is you think about all the elections that people like Carville have tried to interfere with around the world. It just whatever. But this is the stupidest thing, in my opinion, that someone could have believed was true just based on the merits of what they said happened. You ever notice when the left tells you something that happened, like, for example, climate change, or, for example, like what they said Trump is guilty of and he should be in prison for as a felon. Ask them to explain it to you. It never is simple. It's convoluted. It's stuff that we've never heard before. It's taking great leaps and bounds and giving way too much power, way too much influences to things like social media or whatever. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. They can't explain it in simple terms. Meanwhile, I can explain to you exactly what's wrong with Hunter Biden and his laptop, right? You had a guy who took a laptop to get repaired. He left it. He didn't come back for it. And so the owner of the shop tried to get the laptop, to get paid for the laptop. And in the contract that you sign when you drop off said laptop or said electronic devices, you say if I don't recover it or pay for it within a certain amount of time, it becomes the property of the computer repair shop. And so this guy figured out it was Hunter Biden. He made copies of the hard drive, fortunately, because he had seen some troubling things on here, some communications that were basically certainly implicating the, at the time, Vice President of the United States, Joseph Robinette, bribery into possibly getting kickbacks and paid for meetings that he, the Vice President, set up or helped set up by virtue of his position as president with Hunter Biden. Basically, if you had a meeting with Joe Biden, you had a meeting with the administration, you needed some sort of favorable treatment from our government, you could meet with Joe or something like that would happen, then you would get what you wanted, you would get some sort of favorable outcome, and then suddenly you'd be writing checks to Hunter Biden for something that I still don't know. I still have no idea what Hunter Biden does to get these big checks, but that was the ruse. Not to mention he was on the board of an energy company. He knew nothing about that. Burisma as well. Anyway, the bottom line is that I can explain in simple terms. That makes sense to people. Try to have someone explain to you what Trump was guilty of in these criminal trials before the election. And the average person can't even begin to articulate that to you. And if they do, it will make no sense whatsoever. I got more to get through with this, my friends, but I'm reaching the end of the first segment. I want to remind you, in the time I have left here in the first segment, that if you are a business owner, if you're in marketing, if you are in HR, if you're someone at a company who's responsible for getting your logo on stuff, and that can be promotional products, that can be pens and coffee mugs and pad folios and all sorts of stuff like that. It can be trade show displays. It can be pop-up banners and all that stuff. It can be apparel. It can be hats, polos, T-shirts, you name it. If you need your logo on something, Red, White, and Brand is here to help you. RedWhiteandBrand.com is where you can go to shop, to contact the team there. You can also use promo code Todd to save 10% on your first purchase. And if you complete your order online, you're going to get free shipping to boot. RedWhiteandBrand.com, promo code Todd. Quick time out, my friends. Back in just a minute.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Looking for the perfect base camp to explore Moab's stunning landscapes? Welcome to Spanish Trail RV Park, just 3 miles south of downtown Moab. Enjoy spacious pull-through sats with full hookups, free Wi-Fi, and cable TV. Relax in our heated pool and spa after a day of adventure. Clean restrooms, laundry facilities, and a pet-friendly environment make your stay comfortable. With breathtaking views of Red Rock Cliffs and the La Salle Mountains, Spanish Trail RV Park offers a serene retreat. Plus, you're just minutes away from Arches and Canyonlands National Parks. Experience the beauty and convenience of Spanish Trail RV Park, your home away from home in Moab. Book your stay today at SpanishTrailRVPark.com.
Welcome back, my friends. So, picking up here where we left off after the break, going through this press release issued by Tulsi Gabbard and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence here. So we've gone through, again, just to, I guess, quickly highlight if you've just joined us. Basically, the points on this press release are, number one, in the months leading up to the election in 2016, the intelligence community basically said Russia is not, or probably not, trying to interfere in the election using cyber means. About a month after the election, James Clapper, who was DNI back then, said that foreign adversaries did not use cyber attacks on the election infrastructure to alter the U.S. presidential election outcome. On December 9th, 2 days after that, Obama's team, including a bunch of shady cast of characters here, met to discuss Russia, his National Security Council, December 9th. After that meeting, Clapper, his executive assistant, sent an email to the intelligence community, the leaders there, tasking them with creating a new assessment per the president's request that basically looked into how Moscow used tools and the actions that they took to influence the 2016 election. So they did a 180 on this. And they also said they want participation from all these other alphabet soup organizations, including CIA, FBI, NSA, DHS. Then the Obama team leaked false statements, I should say, to the media, including the Washington Post. And that's where we ended last segment, saying Russia has attempted, this was the false statement, through cyber means to interfere in, if not actively influence, the outcome of the election. Then on January 6, 2017, about 2 weeks before Trump took office for the first time, a new intelligence community assessment was released just in the nick of time, just in time to get Trump, catch him off guard as he was preparing to take up residence in the White House. And, so the assessment directly contradicted what they had been saying for the previous 6 months. Now, looking here at the rest of this press release, it says this: after months of investigation into this matter, the facts reveal this new assessment was based on information that was known by those involved to be manufactured, i.e. the Steele dossier, or deemed as not credible. It's not shocking. This was politicized intelligence that was used as the basis for countless smears seeking to delegitimize President Trump's victory. The years-long Mueller investigation, you remember that. 2 congressional impeachments, you remember those as well. High-level officials being investigated, arrested, and thrown into jail. Yes, you remember that as well. Heightened U.S.-Russia tensions. We all remember that, certainly. And more. So, here's what Tulsi Gabbard says. The issue I am raising is not a partisan issue. It is one that concerns every American. By the way, if it doesn't concern every American, something's wrong, because this should set off alarm bells all over an average person's mind as to what actually is alleged to have happened here, which, none of this is surprising for those of us who follow this, but this is humongous news. So, the information, she says, we are releasing today clearly shows there was a treasonous conspiracy. Boy, those are big, powerful words. Treasonous conspiracy in 2016 committed by officials at the highest level of our government, their goal was to subvert the will of the American people. In other words, to destroy our democracy, as the left likes to say. It's so ironic because the left's out there saying that Trump is the one who's trying to undermine our democracy. Yes, I know we have a constitutional republic, but there's certainly democratic aspects to this. You could say constitutional democracy. We've been through all this. But the bottom line here is that the real attempt to overthrow the will of the people came from Obama's White House with this cast of clowns, this cast of characters that we've referenced here in this press release in this program today. Their goal, sorry, I've already read that already. Where do we go? The objective of trying to usurp the president from fulfilling the mandate bestowed upon him by the American people. That's what Gabbard said. Their egregious abuse of power and blatant rejection of our Constitution threatens the very foundation and integrity of our democratic republic. Yes, it does. No matter how powerful, every person involved in this conspiracy, dare I say this, collusion, must be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law to ensure nothing like this ever happens again. Hear, hear, Ms. Gabbard. By the way, for those who don't know, and most of you do know this, but Tulsi Gabbard, at the time, in the time frame that we're talking about here, Tulsi Gabbard was an actual Democrat. She was a Democrat back in this time frame that we are talking about here. The American people's faith and trust in our democratic republic, I'm continuing to read her words here, and therefore the future of our nation depends on it. As such, I am providing all documents to the Department of Justice to deliver the accountability that President Trump, his family, and the American people deserve. The files and memo on today's release are available. That gives you the website dni.gov. Tulsi Gabbard will provide updates or post updates on X and Truth Social. So this is humongous news. And this is, listen, this is, when pastor, I use that word very loosely here, but Obama attended a church, we're told, in Chicago. The pastor was named Jeremiah Wright. And there's audio out there. I don't have it. I probably could pull it up. I reference it from time to time. But when Pastor Jeremiah Wright was talking about 9/11, Obama's pastor, he said, America's chickens have come home to roost. That's what he said. His words, not mine. So he was saying that America caused 9/11. And we got this, basically he's saying we got what we deserved. Now, that's insane. That's ridiculous. That's evil. There is quite literally nothing that could justify what happened on 9/11. And for the people who are sympathetic to Osama bin Laden, to the hijackers, to Al-Qaeda, I know that there were some who read the letter that Osama bin Laden had penned in the back as he was explaining his rationale and thinking. And a lot of Americans, I shouldn't say a lot of leftist lunatics, when they read the letter for the first time, they were sympathetic to it, which is, of course, they would be. They hate America, and they blame America first, and they excuse America's enemies. So the people who are quick to blame America for something like 9/11, those folks are oftentimes the same ones who will go out of their way to excuse the behavior of our government as it pertains to the way that they've handled Trump in this particular situation. Of course, there's multiple, but it all kind of comes back to this point, right? It all comes back to this point where the damage done by this, the repercussions of that, the reach that had into all areas of Trump's presidency. It can even be traced to the trials and convictions. Maybe not directly, but certainly it was all on that trajectory. It's the storyline, the narrative that led people to believe whatever we have to, the Seinfeld-Newman strategy, whatever we have to do, the left says, whatever it takes, as long as it takes us, so long as it takes Trump out of the White House. And if we can't get him out of the White House, we at least want to make him ineffective in the White House. We want him on defense. We don't want him promoting his ideas, his agenda. We don't want him securing the border. We don't want him cleaning up Washington, D.C. They certainly didn't want anything like DOGE. They certainly didn't want this rescissions bill that cut spending by $9 billion. They didn't want any of that. None of this stuff was supposed to happen because there wasn't supposed to be a President Donald Trump. And they were prepared after they had this meeting in the Obama White House to do whatever they could to stop this guy, even if it meant making up a completely bogus narrative that they still politically try to benefit from today. So, got to take a break here, my friends. I want to remind you, though, really quickly, Mike Lindell, MyPillow, want to say thank you. They want to say thank you for those of you who have bought MyPillow products since they've been a partner of ours for 2 years. And they've got some other specials they want you to check out at MyPillow.com, including a deal on Percale bed sheets where you can get a set for as low as $24.98. Head on over to MyPillow.com. Use promo code Todd, my friends. You're going to get that price. You're going to get other discounts on other products as well. Check it out, MyPillow.com, promo code Todd. Quick time out, back here in just a minute.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, my friends. So, let me say this here. I want to kind of wrap this up in the time that we have available. I want to kind of tie up the whole chickens coming home to roost thing. This is really the chickens coming home to roost. And I want to talk about the pros and cons of this too. I want to talk about the difference between seeking justice versus political retribution. There is a difference. I don't want a government that's seeking political retribution. That's a vicious pendulum and a cycle that never ends. But I do want a government that seeks justice, even if it means going after people who are in the political minority. You shouldn't get a free pass to break the law, to be treasonous in, either the political majority or the political minority. And I'll get to that in the time that we have remaining, my friends. But I know, listen, you care about this country. I know that you do. But you cannot fight for America, my friends, if you're not taking care of yourself. That's why I tell you about Solti. Solti is an all-natural, clinically proven supplement that lowers cholesterol safely. Science has spoken on this. The verdict is in. The evidence is in. The science is conclusive that it has been shown to lower cholesterol for folks. It may do the same thing for you as well. All you have to do is take 2 Solti soft gels a day. They're very manageable size. It's easy to do. It sure beats doctor's visits, prescriptions, and all this other stuff. It's a great place to start, my friends. It has been demonstrated to work. I take it. I think you should think about taking it as well. Solti.com, SOLTEA, promo code Todd is where you go to get 50% off, my friends, if you use that promo code. 50% off your first order. You get free shipping to boot. Solti.com, promo code Todd. All right, really quickly here. In the few minutes that we have remaining, I have made it clear. I am not a person that wants to see political vengeance being sought by Republicans. I don't want that. Some of you do. And I understand. Hey, Todd, they've done this. They've broken the rules. They've rewritten the way the game is played. they go low, we got to get down in the dirt with them. I understand the anger, the frustration. I understand the desire to get them, to stop them. I understand the temptation to try to join them at their own game, to beat them at their own game. But I am firmly against this. I am 100% firmly against this. And I know that makes some of you angry. And to that I say, sorry, not really sorry. But I will say this. I understand where you're coming from, and many of you that comes from a good place. But in order to save this great nation, my friends, we cannot create a scenario whereby political vengeance is constantly being sought that will cause us to devolve into a banana republic very, very quickly. And we don't want to do that. However, there is something that is also equally true, and I alluded to it earlier. If there is documented evidence, if there is evidence to show that the previous administration, whether that be the previous administration in this case with Obama, whether that means the previous administration with Biden, if there is evidence, there's evidence that there are actually nefarious, treasonous, illegal acts going on, then there needs to be justice. Justice needs to be served. And the way I think about it, listen, I know context is king. My, oh my, context is king on this. There's a lot of people that'll run from what Tulsi Gabbard is saying because they don't want to be lumped in with the crowd that's crying for political vengeance. And I understand that. But that's why context matters. There is evidence. There is mountains of evidence that this is precisely what happened. There is evidence that the former government under Obama, so former before Trump's first term, tried to effectively stage a coup d'etat. Are you listening to me? A coup d'etat. Overthrow or at least delegitimize a current president using the federal government, listen, an official capacity to make up stories, to lie about intelligence, to make things up. That's what the evidence is here. There has to be justice. This cannot go, as Tulsi Gabbard said in her press release, this cannot go unchecked. This cannot be allowed to happen ever in our country again, if this is in fact what happened. And I believe that it is. I believe that this is exactly what happened. I think that there's been evidence of this for a long time. I think there's been a reluctance to do something about it for reasons I've just laid out, and I understand. But you should not be able to have political immunity by being either in the political majority, and by being in the majority, no one wants to go after you, so you're safe and you can do whatever you want. But likewise, you shouldn't be able to use your position as the political minority or in the political minority to basically say I'm insulated once I no longer have political majority status. That shouldn't be allowed to happen either. And so context is king. Context matters. This needs to be pursued. I think this is good. I think this is the chickens really coming home to roost for the Obama administration and for Jeremiah Wright. So, folks, I've got to run. Have a great day, SDG.